The video message came through every screen on Earth at the same time. Watched it in the observation deck of Luna Station. Her hands shook as she gripped the metal railing. The words spoken by the Galactic Council representatives cut through her like knives. "Humanity is a primitive species," the council member said, his voice dripping with contempt. His blue skin seemed to glow as he leaned back in his chair. "You have been in our civilization for only 70 years. You are children playing with toys you do not understand. The decision is final. You will lose all resource rights in the Andromeda sector." The camera showed the other council members. They were laughing, actually laughing. The collective representatives were smiling. The ancient silicates, beings made of living crystal and stone, gave no reaction, but their silence felt like approval of the insult. His colleague Price stood beside her. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for the last 15 years. His face was a mask of stone, but she could see the vein in his neck pulsing with anger. The council member continued, "The Andromeda sector's mineral wealth is too valuable to waste on a species that cannot even properly defend its own territory. The vote was unanimous. Your protests have been noted and rejected." The smiled. Then he actually winked at the camera before the transmission ended. Stood silent for a long moment. "They don't know what they have just done," he said quietly. Turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" "They think they have just crushed us. They think we will accept this insult and retreat with our tails between our legs. But they have made a terrible mistake. They have made us stop being afraid of them." The message spread across Earth within minutes. From Tokyo to London, from New York to Sydney, every human watched the same video. Every human heard the same contempt in those alien voices. Every human felt the same burn of humiliation. But unlike other times in human history when a nation or a group was insulted and looked for revenge, something different happened on Earth. The anger was cold. The anger was quiet. The anger was organized. In military headquarters deep underground in Geneva, General watched the video in a conference room with his top officers. No one shouted. No one pounded tables. General simply stood up and walked to the window. "How many ships do we have ready?" he asked quietly. His chief tactical officer, commander, checked her files. "The ISS New Horizon is complete. She has been complete for 8 months. We have 300 escort vessels in various stages of readiness. The others can be finished in 2 weeks if we push the workers." General nodded. "Finish them, all of them, and tell Captain Lisa that she is going to war, not a small war, a total war." Across the globe, the same thing was happening in different languages and different rooms. Scientists looked at their research on technology. Engineers studied the collective's defensive systems. Military strategists pulled up decades of stored information about alien weaknesses. Humanity had been gathering information for 70 years. They had been watching, listening, learning. The galaxy had no idea how much humans had learned. Doctor worked in the Earth Defense Analysis Center in Singapore. He had spent 20 years studying military tactics. He knew their patterns. He knew their weaknesses. He knew that they had not fought a real war in 800 years. They were strong, yes, but they were predictable. He sent a message to his team. "Pull up everything on the mining operations in Andromeda. I want to know every security system, every weapon platform, and every ship they have stationed there. I want to know it all by tomorrow morning." His team moved without question. They knew what this meant. This was not research anymore. This was preparation for war. In the capital cities of every nation on Earth, the same orders went out. Some were given by presidents and prime ministers. Some were given by generals. Some were given by corporate leaders who had been secretly allied with their governments for years. The alien species had made a massive error. They had underestimated humans one time too many. They had made humanity angry in a way that created unity instead of division. They had made humans feel like they had nothing to lose. Doctor left Luna Station that night. She took a transport down to Earth and went directly to the underground headquarters. Price was already there, sitting in a small room with General and several other military leaders. "We will not respond with weakness," General said when she entered. "Thee and the collective have shown us that the galaxy respects only power. We will show them power, but we will show it in a way they have never seen before." Leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "We will not destroy their ships. We will not kill their soldiers. We will do something far more devastating. We will prove that they are not as advanced as they think. We will show the entire galaxy that their technology is not as perfect as their pride. We will humiliate them in exactly the way they have humiliated us." Felt a chill run down her spine. She understood what he was saying. The war would not be fought with weapons alone. It would be fought with something more dangerous. It would be fought with truth and strategy and the cold intelligence of a species that had learned to think centuries ahead. The decision was made that night. There was no vote. There was no debate. Humanity would respond. And the response would be so complete, so devastating, so total that the stars themselves would go silent. Captain Lisa received her orders the next morning. She was told to prepare the ISS New Horizon for immediate departure. She was told to gather every human warship that was ready. She was told that she would lead humanity's response to the greatest insult ever given to the human race. She read the tactical plans. She understood what was being asked of her, and she smiled. Not a soft smile, a hard smile that showed her teeth, a smile that said she had been waiting for this moment her entire life. Humanity had been insulted. Humanity had been dismissed. Humanity had been called primitive by species that were old and tired and had forgotten how to truly fight. The galaxy was about to learn that they had made the worst mistake possible. They had woken humanity up. And humanity was angry. The ISS New Horizon emerged from the fold point at exactly 400 hours Earth time. 300 human warships followed in perfect formation. Captain Lisa stood on the bridge, watching the Andromeda sector come into focus on the main screen. Behind her, every human had a job. Every human knew exactly what they had to do. There would be no room for mistakes. There would be no time for doubt. "All ships report ready status," the communications officer said. His name was James and his voice was completely calm. Lisa had chosen every person on this ship for one reason. They did not panic. They did not hesitate. They did their jobs. The mining facility sat on the asteroid designated A2847. It was massive, the size of a small city. It held enough ore to supply an entire civilization for decades. But more importantly, it held weapons, shields, communication arrays, everything a modern military needed to maintain control of a sector. "All vessels move into position," Lisa commanded. Her voice carried across the entire fleet. Every captain heard her. Every captain knew what position meant. They had trained for this moment. They had run the simulations 1,000 times. The human ships split into groups. They did not move directly toward the facility. They moved around it. They moved above it. They moved below it. They moved through the asteroid field in ways that seemed random but were not random. Everything was calculated. Every movement was part of a plan designed weeks ago in a room deep underground on Earth. The defense systems suddenly came to life. Red lights appeared on the facility. Weapons began to track the human ships. Alarms sounded across the station. The crew began their preparations for war, exactly as Lisa knew they would. "They are activating Defensive Grid 17, reported from the tactical station. "And now Grid 3. They are spreading their defenses. They think we are going to attack from multiple directions." "Because we are," Lisa said. "But they were not going to attack with weapons. They were going to attack with something far more effective. They were going to attack with information." Dr. David Watson sat in a small room aboard the New Horizon. He had spent the last 5 years studying the computer systems. He knew their codes. He knew their defenses. He knew their blind spots. His fingers moved across the keyboard in front of him, and with each keystroke, human code began to spread through the network. The code was not a virus. It was not designed to destroy anything. It was designed to do one thing only. It was designed to take control. One by one, the weapon systems went offline. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply switched off. The facility's communications array began broadcasting on channels that no one wanted the galaxy to hear. "They are losing control of the perimeter defense," an officer reported to his commander. His voice showed his panic. "Commander, we are losing control of everything. The mining equipment, the cargo systems, the—" "Shut down the main computer," the commander ordered. "Shut everything down." But it was too late. The human code had already spread to every backup system, every secondary network, every hidden redundancy that they had built into their facility. Within 20 minutes, the entire mining station was dark, all weapons offline, all shields down, all communication systems either offline or broadcasting whatever message the humans wanted to send. And the humans were sending a very clear message. "This facility is now under human control," Captain Lisa sent across every channel. "This message is also being broadcast to all vessels currently in this sector. You have a choice. You can accept this situation, or you can escalate." The first battle fleet jumped into the sector before her message was finished. 30 ships, all of them combat-ready, all of them moving toward the human fleet at maximum speed. "They are coming," reported. ETA 8 minutes. Lisa watched the tactical display. The ships were fast. They were powerful. On paper, they should have been able to destroy the human fleet. But Lisa had not survived 75 years of life by fighting wars that were fair. "All vessels, execute pattern Delta," she commanded. The human fleet split into groups. Some ships moved toward the asteroids. Some ships moved toward the sun. Some ships moved in directions that seemed completely illogical but were actually perfectly planned. They moved through the sensor range in ways that confused the enemy tracking systems. The fleet opened fire. Weapons that could destroy planets released their energy, and they hit empty space. They hit asteroids. They hit the dust of the space they were traveling through, but they did not hit a single human ship. Meanwhile, the human ships were sending their own message, not with weapons, with information. Every dark secret of the military was being broadcast across all channels, every strategic weakness, every tactical failure, every time they had hidden casualties from their government. The fleet commander realized what was happening. He realized that his ships were being tracked by systems he could not see. He realized that his defensive systems were not responding. He realized that he was fighting an enemy that understood his limitations better than he did himself. "Retreat," he commanded. "All ships retreat." But the human ships did not attack as they ran. Lisa had not ordered them to. The message had been sent. They had learned their lesson. Within 3 hours, the entire presence in the Andromeda sector had shut down. Their ships had retreated to their home space. The facility on A2847 was completely dark and completely under human control. Lisa stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and looked at the silent mining station on her screen. They had been fighting for 800 years without a real war. They had gotten soft. They had gotten predictable. They had gotten arrogant. And arrogance, Lisa knew, was the most dangerous weakness of all. "Send message to Earth Command," she said. "Tell them the first phase is complete. Tell them the Andromeda sector is ours. And tell them to prepare for Phase 2. Doctor received the message on Earth. She read it once. Then she read it again. Then she began to understand what Lisa had just done. She had not just captured a facility. She had proven that humanity could defeat a superior military force through intelligence and strategy. The galaxy was going to hear about this. And when they did, everything was going to change. But they were only the beginning. There was still the collective, and there was still the message that needed to be sent to the entire galactic civilization. Humanity had woken up, and the galaxy was about to find out what that meant. The collective watched what happened to them with great interest. Their analysts studied the battle reports. Their military strategists tried to understand how a younger species could defeat an older one so completely. Their politicians began to argue about what response would be appropriate. The collective's primary council met in their grand chamber on the planet Prime. The chamber was massive. The walls were made of materials that reflected light in colors that human eyes could not even perceive. The council members sat in positions that showed their rank and their importance to the collective. High Counselor spoke first. He had been the one who voted to strip Earth of its mining rights. He had laughed when the human ambassador protested. Now he did not feel much like laughing. "We must respond with strength," he said. "They have been defeated because they underestimated the enemy. We will not make that mistake. We will gather our fleets. We will prepare our defenses. When humanity attacks us, we will be ready." But Counselor Sarah, who was older and who had seen more wars than most of the other council members, did not agree. She stood slowly, using the armrest of her chair to support her weight. "This is not a military problem," she said. "They have superior ships, they have superior weapons, they have superior numbers, and yet they were still defeated. This tells me that humanity has something that we do not have. They have strategy, they have unity, they have a will to win that we have forgotten." "Then we will teach them the cost of war," High Counselor said. "No," Sarah replied. "We will learn from them, or we will fall like they have fallen." Before the council could vote on which path to follow, the message came. It came to on every planet. It came through their communication systems. It came through their personal devices. It came through channels they thought were secure and private. The message was from Captain Lisa. It was addressed to the collective, and it was not a threat. It was an offer. "They have been asked to consider peace," the message said. "They have been offered the choice to retreat or to escalate. They have chosen to retreat. The collective is now being offered the same choice." Then the message changed. It began to show documents, videos, recordings of conversations. All of them showed things that the collective did not want the galaxy to know about. They showed the theft of human technology. They showed the sabotage of human scientific expeditions. They showed military attacks on civilian human colonies that had never been reported to the Galactic Council. High Counselor felt his face go pale. His hands began to shake. "This is fabricated," he said. "These are lies. This is human propaganda." But the evidence kept coming, and every piece of evidence was real. Every document was genuine. Every recording was authentic, because humanity had been listening for 70 years. They had been collecting information. They had been waiting for the moment when they could use it. Counselor Sarah walked to the communication chamber. She sent a message directly to Captain Lisa. "I accept your offer. The collective will retreat. We will make peace. We will accept whatever terms humanity demands." High Counselor tried to stop her. He tried to countermand her order. But the other council members were already voting. The evidence had shown them the truth. The collective had done terrible things in their history, and they had kept those things hidden. Now the entire galaxy knew about them. The military received orders to stand down. The attack fleets were recalled. The weapons systems were put into standby mode. The collective, one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, had surrendered without a single shot being fired. Captain Lisa received the message of surrender on the bridge of the ISS New Horizon. She read it once. Then she smiled. Not a smile of joy, a smile of satisfaction, a smile that said everything was going exactly as planned. "Send message back," she said. "Tell them that humanity accepts their surrender. Tell them that all forces will retreat to space immediately. Tell them that any vessel found outside of their home sector will be disabled and brought to trial." Doctor watched all of this from Earth. She watched the retreat. She watched the collective surrender. She watched the galaxy begin to understand what had just happened. Humanity had not won through superior weapons. Humanity had won through superior information. Humanity had spent 70 years listening to every transmission, reading every document, building a complete picture of galactic history. And then they had used that information like a weapon far more powerful than any bomb. The smaller species were beginning to notice. The who had been oppressed by the for centuries, the who had been forced to work in mines, the collective who had been pushed to the edge of galactic civilization. Messages began to arrive at Earth Command, messages asking for protection, messages asking for alliance, messages asking if humanity would stand with them against the old powers that had dominated the galaxy for so long. General received these messages. He read them carefully. Then he sent his response. "We will stand with you. We will protect you. We will build a new galactic community where all species are equal, where power is not held by the oldest or the strongest, but by those who are and most just." It was a promise that would change the galaxy forever. Back on Prime, High Counselor sat alone in his chamber. He thought about everything that had happened. He thought about his pride. He thought about his arrogance. He thought about the moment when he had laughed at the human ambassador on the Galactic Council. He had made a mistake, a terrible, fatal mistake. He had underestimated humanity, and now humanity was going to reshape the entire galactic civilization. They were rebuilding their military. The collective was fortifying their borders, but both of them knew the truth. They had been defeated by a species they had called primitive, and that knowledge was going to haunt them for generations to come. Captain Lisa sent one final message to both thee and the collective. It was simple, it was clear, it was devastating. The age of your dominance is over. The age of humanity has begun. Accept this or face extinction. Neither the nor the collective responded to the message. They both understood what it meant. They both understood that they had awakened something in humanity that would not sleep again. 3 weeks after the surrender of the collective, the old Galactic Council convened for the first time since the conflict had begun. The chamber where they met was empty. Most of the old members refused to attend. High Counselor sent his apologies. He could not face the other species. The shame was too great. Instead, a new group of people arrived at the neutral station Meridian Core. Captain Lisa walked through the docking bay with her escort. Behind her came representatives from the smaller species. Led by an elder named Thomas who had survived 7 centuries of oppression. Who brought documents proving they had been enslaved by the for 400 years. The collective, whose individual members represented a hive mind older than human civilization itself. And with them came Doctor, the chief ambassador from Earth. The new council chamber was smaller than the old one. The seats were arranged in a circle instead of in a hierarchy of importance. There were no positions at the top. There were no positions at the bottom. Every seat was equal. Every voice would matter. The first action of the new council was to address the crimes of the old powers. Evidence was presented. Documents were shown. The entire history of aggression was laid out. The crimes of the collective were detailed. The exploitation and the slavery and the theft and the murder all became visible to the entire galaxy. Dr. Hayes, Earth's lead historian, stood before the council and spoke about what she had found in the archives. The evidence of wars that had never been officially acknowledged. The evidence of colonies destroyed because they threatened economic interests. The evidence of entire species enslaved and then erased from history. The chamber fell silent. Even the ancient silicates, beings made of crystal and stone who had watched civilizations rise and fall for billions of years, seemed to understand the gravity of what was being revealed. They have governed the galaxy for 800 years, said. In that time they have committed atrocities that would make any species ashamed. Yet they hid these atrocities. They covered them up. They taught their people that they were benevolent rulers. This is not leadership. This is tyranny built on lies. Then came the evidence. Document after document showing the theft of human technology. Video recordings of agents sabotaging human mining operations. Communications between commanders ordering the destruction of human settlements. Counselor Sarah of the watched all of this with a face that showed no emotion. She had known some of this. She had suspected much of it. But seeing it all laid out, seeing the full scope of what her civilization had done, was overwhelming. When the presentation was finished, the council turned to thee and thou for their response. Silence greeted them. Neither the nor the had anything to say. They could not deny the evidence. They could not explain away the crimes. They could only accept what they had become. Captain Lisa stood and walked to the center of the council chamber. Every eye, every sensor, every recording device in the galaxy was watching her. Humanity does not ask for revenge, she said. Her voice was calm and clear. We do not ask for the execution of your leaders. We do not ask for the destruction of your worlds. We ask for something different. We ask for change. She pulled up a document. It was the new Galactic Charter. It outlined a system of governance that was built on transparency and equality. Every decision made by the Council would be public. Every member species would have equal representation. Every member species would have equal access to resources and information. This is the new way, Lisa said. Any civilization that refuses to accept this charter will be excluded from galactic commerce. Any civilization that refuses to open their archives to inspection will be isolated. Any civilization that commits crimes against other species will face trial before this council. The representative tried to object. He tried to argue that this was tyranny imposed by the strong on the weak. But before he could finish his objection, every species in the chamber voted against him. The vote was unanimous. The new Galactic Charter was accepted. The new age had begun. Back on Earth, the celebrations lasted for days. Humans had not just defeated alien civilizations. Humans had fundamentally changed the structure of galactic society. Humans had brought justice to trillions of beings who had lived under oppressive regimes for thousands of years. Doctor stood in the observation deck of Luna Station, looking down at Earth. The planet was her home. The species on that planet was her people. And for the first time in 70 years, humans could stand with their heads high in front of the galaxy. Price joined her at the window. He was older now. The years of diplomacy and conflict had aged him, but his eyes were bright. His face showed satisfaction. They are already calling it the human revolution, he said. Historians are saying that this marks the end of the age of power and the beginning of the age of justice. They should not call it the human revolution, replied. This is not a revolution led by one species. This is a revolution by all species against oppression. Humanity was just the one brave enough to start it. On the planet Prime, High Counselor sat alone in his chamber. The walls that had once been proud symbols of strength now seemed to mock him. He had spent his entire life building the power of the collective, and in the span of 3 weeks, he had lost it all. But he had also learned something. He had learned that power without justice is not really power. It is just the temporary ability to impose your will on others, and that kind of power always ends. They were beginning a period of their own reflection. Their historians were going through their archives. They were discovering truths about their own civilization that they had been taught to hide. The process was painful. The process was difficult, but it was necessary. Across the galaxy, new alliances were forming. Species that had never been allowed to sit together as equals were now building friendships. Resources were being shared fairly. Knowledge was being exchanged without fear of theft or sabotage. The silicates, the ancient beings who had watched all of this unfold, sent a message to the new Galactic Council. In their message, they stated that in their billions of years of existence, they had never seen a species accomplish so much change so quickly and with so little violence. Humanity has shown us that the pen can be mightier than the sword, the silicate message said. Humanity has shown us that truth can defeat power. Humanity has shown us a better way to live together. Captain Lisa received word of this message while sitting on the bridge of the ISS New Horizon. She smiled, a real smile this time, a smile that said she had done exactly what she set out to do. The stars had not fallen silent. The stars were singing, and the song they sang was a song of change, a song of hope, a song of justice finally arriving in a galaxy that had waited far too long for it. 5 years had passed since the day the Galactic Council had laughed at humanity. 5 years had passed since the message came to every screen on Earth that humans were primitive and unworthy. 5 years had passed since that insult had changed everything. Doctor stood in the great library of the new Galactic Council on Meridian Core Station. The library was massive. The walls extended for kilometers. The shelves held records from every species in the galaxy. It was the largest repository of information that had ever been assembled. And she was responsible for all of it. After the revolution, humans had been given control of the galactic archives. It made sense. Humans had proven that they could gather information without destroying it. Humans had proven that they could use truth as a weapon more powerful than any bomb. Humans had proven that they could be trusted with the secrets of every civilization. Walked through the aisles of the library, running her fingers along the data crystals and the ancient books and the living documents that contained the history of trillions of years. Somewhere in this library was the record of every war ever fought, every crime ever committed, every atrocity ever hidden. And because of humans, it was all open, it was all available. No species could hide from the truth anymore. Price found her in the ancient history section. He was older now. His hair was completely white. His face was lined with the marks of time and responsibility. He had spent the last 5 years rebuilding Earth's diplomatic service, training a new generation of ambassadors who understood not just how to negotiate, but how to seek justice. "They have finished the memorial," he said. Turned to look at him. What memorial? The memorial to all the species that were oppressed under rule. It is being built on the neutral moon of Meridian 4. Every species that suffered has contributed to it. They brought stone from their home world. They brought metals from the mines where they were enslaved. They brought something that represents all of their memories of suffering. Felt tears beginning to form in her eyes. And humans. Humans brought data crystals containing the records of everything we found in the archives, everything that proves the crimes that were committed. The memorial will be built around those records. It will be a reminder forever of what happens when power is not guided by justice. They walked together through the library in silence. Around them, other species were working. Archivists were cataloging their own dark history. Scientists were verifying the authenticity of the documents they had stolen from humans over the decades. Silicate computers were organizing billions of years of data into searchable formats. It was a strange world now, a world where former enemies worked side by side, a world where transparency was valued above power, a world where the truth could no longer be hidden. Back on Earth, the celebrations had faded. Life had returned to normal, but normal was different now. Humans knew that they had changed the galaxy. Humans knew that they had done it not through superior weapons, but through superior wisdom. General had retired from the military. He now spent his time teaching military strategy at universities, not the old kind of strategy where you defeated your enemies through warfare, but a new kind of strategy where you defeated your enemies by making them understand that their goals were wrong. Captain Lisa had also retired. She was writing a book about the entire conflict. It was called The Silent War: How Humanity Changed the Galaxy. The book was being published in languages from 47 different species. Everyone wanted to understand what had happened. Everyone wanted to know how a young species could accomplish so much in so little time. The truth was simpler than most people realized. Humans had listened. Humans had learned. Humans had understood that the best way to win was not to destroy your enemy, but to prove to everyone else that your enemy was wrong. On the planet Prime, Counselor Sarah had become the new leader of the collective. She had spent the last 5 years dismantling the structures of oppression that her civilization had built. It was difficult work. It was painful work. But it was necessary work. They were learning that there was a price for their crimes. The price was the loss of their power and the necessity of rebuilding their society from the ground up. On the home world, the situation was similar. The old council had dissolved. The military had been reduced to a fraction of its former size. The government had been open to public inspection. Every decision was debated openly. Every leader was held accountable for their actions. It was not the kind of change that they would have chosen for themselves, but it was the kind of change that was necessary if they wanted to be part of the new galactic civilization. Doctor received a message 5 years after the conflict ended. It was from a young scientist named. The message said that had been inspired by the human approach to gathering information, wanted to study under, wanted to learn how to think like a human. Invited him to Earth. When arrived, took him to the observation deck of Luna Station. They looked down at the blue planet below them. They looked at the clouds swirling around the poles. They looked at the lights of human cities shining in the darkness. This is what you needed to understand, said. Humans look at the universe differently. We do not see it as something to conquer. We see it as something to understand. We see it as something to learn from. Stood silently for a long time. Then he asked a question. How did you know? How did you know that you could defeat us without fighting? Smiled. We did not know, we guessed. We hoped. But we learned something 70 years ago that changed everything. We learned that the universe respects wisdom more than it respects power. We learned that the truth is stronger than any weapon. And we learned that if you are patient, if you listen, if you gather knowledge, you can accomplish more than any army could accomplish in 1,000 years. In the Grand Hall of the new Galactic Council, the members gathered for the annual celebration of the new age. It was 5 years to the day since the new charter had been accepted. Representatives from 137 different species stood together as equals. No species was above another. No species was below another. Was asked to speak. She stood at the center of the hall and looked at all of the faces around her, different shapes, different colors, different ways of existing, but all of them united by one thing. All of them had chosen to come together and build something better. 5 years ago, said, the old Galactic Council laughed at humanity. They said we were primitive. They said we did not belong in their civilization. They were wrong, but more importantly, they were wrong about something else. They were wrong about what strength really means. She paused and looked around the hall. Strength is not measured in weapons or in power. Strength is measured in the ability to choose mercy when you could choose revenge. Strength is measured in the ability to tell the truth even when the truth hurts. Strength is measured in the ability to work together with your enemies to build something better than what came before. The hall erupted in applause. The sound was incredible. Species that could not produce sound were using translation devices. Species that could only make light waves were flashing colors across the spectrum. The entire galactic civilization was celebrating the end of oppression and the beginning of a new age. Captain Lisa watched all of this from her ship. The ISS New Horizon was now a museum. It would never see combat again. It would be preserved as a reminder of the day when humans changed the galaxy. She thought about the moment when she had sent the first message to the... She thought about the moment when they had realized they were beaten. She thought about the moment when the entire galactic civilization shifted on its axis. The stars had not fallen silent after all. The stars had learned to sing a new song, a song of justice, a song of truth, a song of hope. And the song was beautiful. On Earth, As night fell over the cities and towns and villages where billions of humans lived, people looked up at the sky. They saw the stars shining down at them. They remembered the day when those stars had seemed cold and hostile. They remembered the day when aliens had laughed at them. Now those same aliens were standing beside them, working with them, learning from them. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. Humanity had awakened the galaxy. And in that awakening, both humanity and the galaxy had found something they had been searching for all along: truth, justice, and the promise of a better tomorrow.